You are infinitely loved by an infinite God. Everyone you love is infinitely loved by an infinite God. Everyone you hate is infinitely loved by an infinite God. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Love Your Unlovable podcast. I'm your host, the wildly unlovable, yet infinitely loved Eileen Chevalier.
You say you didn't lie, lying here beside me. Tears are in your eyes, telling me that I can leave. Busting down the door, landing on the floor, pain, cutting with a word, sharper than any sword. You are pouring fire on fire. Everything will burn, everything in turn. But we'll be lying still, slap you in the face, and all of my disgrace fades. Ungodly deeds done, measured up in time. Wait that we could never lift. Everything will burn exactly in its turn. But will you be beside? What can stop us now? Tell me, darling, how does this train wreck end? 'Cause I can't seem to find breaks of any kind. Cliff is up ahead and sailing through the air. Do we even care? Look what we've become. No, it was always there. But that's not why I hide, and that's not why you cry. We are weeping for ourselves. Everything can go down either of two roads. We seem to choose all wrong each and every time. But I can hear the sound, war drums as they pound and round the battle charge and beat us to the ground. But where will it all end? When will we just die? Leave our
right. Well, welcome back to...
The saga continues.
Let's call this episode December 6 and 7. So
Okay.
I just checked, and that song, Tell Me Darling How, the next song on the album called The Road, and the song after that called Down and Out, and the song after that called December 7th Alone, and the song after that called Please Stay, were all written on December 6th and 7th of 2004. So 5 songs in 2 days. Definitely
A lot of stuff.
the most prolific I've ever been in my life. I've never written... I don't think I've
Did
ever...
you start writing them after I left?
Oh,
On
yeah.
the 6th?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I don't think I'd even written 2 songs in one day ever. And I wrote 5 in 2 days. So that's like 2.5
Yeah.
per
the
day.
6th was a big day.
The 6th was
the
a
7th
huge
was
fight.
an even bigger day.
Right. So, yeah, the 7th of December 2004 was the day, we covered it in the first podcast, but was the day that Eileen found out she was pregnant. And we were at the lowest. I mean, we were like...
I think we got a little lower.
We got a little lower, but we were at the lowest up to that point.
Yeah,
So,
we kept being continually. We were at
We
the
kept
lowest up
finding
to that
new
point.
lows.
New lows.
So,
Can I say something that I thought
Yeah.
of while we were listening? So I think that, I mean, I've seen this happen, not just with you, but with other things too. Like, I think Ella really taps into it where there's these larger truths that we don't really understand and we can't articulate, but that they come out in artistic work. And I feel like that song has a few nuggets in it that are just so profound. But I don't know that you really could have articulated like everything that they meant, you know? But you just like tapped into that truth.
what jumped out at you specifically?
Oh gosh, I'd have to look.
Here, I can pull the lyrics up.
Yeah, thanks.
They're going to be a little small.
Thanks, honey. I mean, besides the brilliant line here beside me.
Yeah. You say you didn't lie, lying here beside me.
So good.
Tears are in your eyes telling me that I can leave. Oof, I remember that night. I remember that feeling. Busting down the door, landing on the floor in pain. Cutting with a word much sharper than a sword. You pouring fire on fire? Is that what it is? Like, our words got so hurtful. Like, we had gotten to the point where all of our wounds were sore. Like, all of our soft spots were already injured. And we could just poke one little spot and it was just like chaos, just severe pain. And it was so dark. Like, Eileen was feeling very defensive. Like, just, she was really fearful.
Oh gosh, and at this point I'm pregnant.
At this point you're pregnant.
So that's the next 9 months of my life,
Yeah.
you know? And I mean, I'm doing it with or without you, and I want you to like be supportive and
Well, that wasn't in my consciousness yet when I wrote this.
Oh,
song.
right.
But
oh yeah. Sorry.
So Eileen
I was pregnant.
Eileen
I
was
just didn't know
hormonal.
it.
Yes. Eileen was hormonal from pregnancy, but we didn't know. So it felt like things were going from bad to worse as opposed to them getting better. And at some point, our argument about Sarah and the way that I treated her versus the way that I treated Eileen kind of morphed into an argument about my mom. And I got kind of fixated on my mom being a very loving person and pointing that out, because I was really mad that Eileen wasn't loving me either, like the way I wanted her to, and she was very mad that I wasn't loving her the way I wanted her to. We're gonna circle
back to that in a minute.
And you know, my mom was probably the most selfless person in my life up to that point. Eileen has definitely been way more selfless and sacrificing for me at this point. But at that point, I had only known Eileen a few months.
Yeah.
So I had said some
And
horrible
all I did
things.
was demand that you do these things to prove to me that you love me. Like,
Exactly.
yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And so at some point, that argument had devolved. It was just over and over and over. And I started being spiteful. I started saying mean things just because I knew they were mean. And Eileen was really hurt and said something very unkind. And I slapped her. I slapped her in the face. And that moment was really intense. Like, do you remember that? Do you remember what it felt like? Like, everything.
I mean, I don't remember what it felt like for you.
Everything got really slow-mo for me. Like, I was like, oh, that's a line I can't uncross. Like, that. I remember we were standing in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I remember you turned around and immediately, like, jammed your leg or something into the screen door right after, or the picket fence gate or something. You were like so baffled and startled and hurt and everything that you like weren't paying attention, and you like, so it was like injury upon injury. Anyway, it was like, in hindsight, I think it happened maybe a week or two before I wrote these songs. So late November. Thanksgiving was a thing. We can talk about that briefly. I mean, we don't have to. It's just, it was so lonely. It was so hurtful. It was just so dark. And like, we had, anyway, it was a horrible feeling. I mean, I don't know. What do you remember?
I think I had forgotten that it was talking about your mom that preceded you hitting me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when I said that, we'll circle back to that, like what I was thinking of, because you were saying that your mom was like the nicest person that you knew.
Mm-hmm.
But when your mom found out that you had hit me, she absolutely 100% blamed me.
Mm-hmm.
It was my fault. It was my fault that you did that. And like, you were so perfect and wonderful. And so anything that could go wrong was clearly my problem. Like, I had done that to you. And no doubt, like, I had pushed you.
But everybody's actions are their own.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was my
And
own.
I think perhaps some of what you took for kindness was actually, I mean, enabling. I don't know if that's the right word, but like covering over of not holding you accountable. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think for me, I realized, not then, but later, I realized the whole, like, I began to understand enabling. And now there's like just so much more to it than
that's
that.
a whole other
But I think like
conversation,
when you allow someone to do something and you make excuses for them, it doesn't give them the opportunity to grow in the same way.
Right.
And I think one of the most valuable parts of our relationship is that you call me out.
You call me out.
Absolutely. Because that's what we're here for, babe.
I know. No, this is 20 years of us making each other better at this point, but it's hurtful.
Well,
at the
we
time.
know how to do it now.
Right.
Like, now we're so much better at
Right.
helping each other to
We can do
become
it.
better people. And and we know that we're doing it in love.
Yeah.
But that's how I know you love me. It's because you call me out.
Yeah,
And you don't let me get away with stuff. Either, like, not just with you, but just, like, personally. You're
Right.
like, well, you're doing this because you don't have enough courage to do the other thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think part of what is so valuable about our family in general, because the kids do it, they'll call me out on stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
And
We unfortunately have trained our kids to be really real. Too real sometimes. And to call
and they
shit
call
out.
each other out.
Yeah.
And so I think that is really,
Well, that's deep love.
that's real love.
But it can be done in a non-loving way.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're getting at. We do that for each other much
But I
better
just,
now
when you said
than we
that
did
about your mom just now, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting, because your perspective was that she was so loving and kind and
Yeah.
perfect. But I think part of what you thought that was loving and kind was actually an imperfection, like something that you longed for because it made you feel better, but not something that you truly desired because it made you be better.
Yeah, well, for sure, my mom is very caring and comforting, and I think that like I felt, man, I just at that point I felt really wrung out.
Yeah. Oh,
You
no
know,
doubt.
like we
No
were
doubt.
both so wrung out, but you at least had family to go to and talk to, and like,
No, because they too blamed me for everything.
mm,
So I really didn't. There was no one who thought it wasn't my fault, including me.
it was a
And
really,
when we went to the counselors, when we went to the first pastor and the counselors that he had with him at that time, and then the two sets of counselors after that, it was always me. It was always everything is my fault. And that was really tough. So, I mean, obviously that hadn't happened in December, but that was later. But it was just like a continuation of everything is your fault. Everything, I mean, my fault. Everything is my fault. And sort of like not making you be accountable for anything, which, I mean, I get it. Like a lot of it was like my insecurity. But how you deal with people who are insecure is also a thing, you know?
well,
It's just, it's like, it's not like one doesn't
Right.
matter and the other one does.
well, you deal with insecurity with love, and that's the
Yeah.
that's the thing I didn't understand. Is like
Yeah.
I didn't know how to handle your insecurity and your self-loathing, so I just wanted you to figure it out. Like I was just like,
Right.
I really can't
Because
handle
you
this.
didn't know how to figure it
I
out.
don't know how to do it, and
Yeah.
and I really just need you to figure this out because it's going to destroy us. I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of, so the imagery at the end of Tell Me Darling How is just like a really slow motion train wreck. And you know, like I envision this train just slowly going off of a cliff, and it's like we have to let it. Here, let me read a few of the lyrics, I guess.
That's really interesting because when I hear them, like, we have to let it go. And I mean, that's just like so deep. And I think that the more you start letting things go, the deeper that gets.
Yeah.
Like on just a very intimate, like cellular level of
So-
letting things go.
Kind of jumping in mid-song, slap you in the face, all of my disgrace fades. I mean, that just basically means like every other disgraceful thing I've ever done pales in comparison. Ungodly deeds done, measured up in tons, weight that we could never lift. Everything will burn exactly in its turn, but will you be beside? What can stop us now? Tell me, darling, how does this train wreck end? Because I can't seem to find breaks of any kind. A cliff is up ahead, and sailing through the air, do we even care? Look what we've become. No, it was always there.
Not just so true.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that, I think, is the other thing, because it was like, oh, it's totally your fault, and somehow magically you made Mike become this person that would do that. But I don't think that that's like the evil is
No.
already in us. Like,
Absolutely.
it's just whether or not you've been in a situation
That brought it out.
that brought it out.
In fact, I'll tell a quick anecdote, but I was just thinking about this earlier today. But like, I remember my mom, when we were little, I don't even think my youngest brother was born yet. She was babysitting this kid to make a little extra money. And Paul and I were young. I think we were like 6 and 4, you know, and this kid was probably like 4 or 3. And I just remember being so mean to that kid. Like, I think we felt threatened that our mom was like taking in another kid.
Yeah,
But
that
like
makes
our
sense.
response, our gut response was to just like basically low key torture this kid. Like, and I looked back even in just the years right after, I looked back at that in horror.
Yeah.
Like that I was capable of that.
Yeah.
And it was actually a key moment. It was a key window into my own heart, that when I came to understand that God loved me when I was 9, that was a key part.
Oh, wow.
Like I was like, God loves me. Like, I am evil. I know I'm evil. I
Yeah.
know I am capable of tremendous evil
Yeah.
and mean-spiritedness. And like, it was very dark and very, like, it wasn't, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't harmful physically to the kid, but it was like mean-spirited playing. It was like, let's play this game where you get hurt all the time, you know? Like, it was that kind of...
Well, and I think those things are subtle, and it kind of makes them even more nefarious because they're harder to like root out to see them for what they are.
And I think it plays out a lot on playgrounds.
Oh, and in adult relationships.
And in adult relationships. It's just evil. I mean, the scriptures say that every inkling of the heart of man is evil from birth. And I can attest to that being true in my own heart. Even though I was also capable of great tenderness and sweetness in my youth, I can testify to...
But we have all the capacity.
Right. I can testify to startling evil and also startling defiance. Like, one of my other sort of go-to memories when I came to understand that God loved me and died for me, the sins that I remembered were that incident with that kid my mom was babysitting, and one time in first grade where I was like going to the urinal. I was all by myself, and there was a drain in the floor behind me, and I was just like, I want to pee in that drain and not in the urinal. And I was just like, I know that's wrong. Like, I was just like, I know that is not the right thing to do. But I just turned around and peed in that drain. And I remember going home later that night and telling my mom that I did that, like, crying.
But you didn't get in trouble. Like, no one knew?
No one caught me. Nothing. And I, like, of course, now with my perspective, like, if Hank came to me as a 6-year-old and was like, I peed in the drain in the floor, I would be like, oh, that's hilarious. I mean, or I don't know what I would do, but like, it's not a big deal. But what it was to me at that time
was doing the thing intentionally
that I knew was wrong. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that level of that I was capable of, that level of like, I know what I should and shouldn't do here,
and I'm just gonna.
And there's this kind of dark, sick, evil. Another thing that I felt very shameful. Well, you might have just been
trying it out. You're like, well, what would it feel like
trying
to
out
do
evil.
the wrong thing?
And, you know, anyway.
And it didn't feel good.
It didn't feel good.
Yeah.
And then just to go ahead and air all my dirtiest laundry.
Ooh.
I was exposed as a 6-year-old, so probably a little before that peeing in the floor, or maybe around the same time. A neighbor kid that was a couple years older than me showed me pornography for the first time when I was 5 or 6. And I knew, like, right away. I'm like 5. I didn't know how to process that, and it was fairly tame. Thankfully, it was a 1970s sex position manual, how-to type of thing with mostly like line drawing, not real graphic. But I knew the second I looked at it that I was both extremely interested and also that I should not be looking at it. Like that, it was this intoxicating mix of pleasure and sneakiness and evil. And so those 3 things, when I came to tell God that I'm so sorry for my sins, those were the things on my heart when I was 9 years old. So I knew rebellion, I knew violence, and I knew lust at 6.
Yeah.
You know? So the heart is wicked. And you have to start there. Like, you have to be honest, because if you can't be honest about your wickedness, you cannot appreciate salvation.
Yeah.
You can't. And here's the thing, like,
you judge other people.
You judge other people, and that's not your... Jesus says, judge not, lest you be judged. So everybody is super... Anyway, I just wanted to kind of point that out. But we can get into psychoanalyzing my sexual issues later on in life in the podcast. They're relevant. They're totally relevant.
Very relevant.
So tell me, darling, how really, really intense, I mean, slapping you was just such a horrible experience for me. Probably wasn't a great experience for you.
You know, I think because, like, in the last episode, you talked at the very end about my self-harming. And so for me, One, I was spanked as a child.
Oh, me too.
So there was like the physical, like,
You deserve pain
repercussion
when you do bad things.
that was very normalized. I mean, in our school, like,
Our culture.
oh, and I mean, in public school, it was like kids regularly got taken
It
out
was the
into the
80s.
hall
Yeah,
and
we were getting
spanked every day. And so that, like, physical expression of disgust and or punishment, there was a normalization to it that isn't normal now, which is amazing and wonderful. But I think, like, for me, that existed in my past, and my self-harm existed already.
Oh, yeah.
And so I mean, obviously I'm not like super I have a lot more to think about, I'm sure, with that, because I'm like, for now it's just like, oh, it's all part of my self-loathing. But I think in a way it was validating, because it was like, well, of course you hate me, and of course I deserve this, and this is who I am. I'm the person who makes people want to just hit them. Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, our experiences were really different. Like, mine was a reaffirmation of my worthlessness, or my, like, worse than worthlessness, like, that I was a bane on the world.
Yeah. And what you deserved was physical pain.
Yeah, because all I brought was pain to other people. And that's not, like, it's not a complete picture, right? But there are moments when it feels like that. When it feels like, oh, I'm just making everyone miserable. Like, what am I doing here? I mean, there were other really good moments too. And I think that's the problem with life. It's like this, like, mix of everything. And so it's hard to...
Well, you and I have both been suicidal at times. And I think that we both kind of reach the same point where we feel like it would be better if we weren't here. That's where we get to.
So much.
Yeah.
So much of my life was that.
Which I just want to say straight up, I think that's demonic. I think that that demons are real. And I think that every time I have felt like committing suicide, I have come to realize that there was definitely not demonic possession, but demonic influence, demonic whispering. And the reason I can say that with confidence is because the things that I'm saying to myself are not things that I believe. And the things that I'm saying to myself are not things that are true. And truth, speaking the truth of the gospel, the deeper truths that I know to be true about the God, the creator of the universe, makes those thoughts flee. But in my lowest moments and in my saddest moments, I can begin to believe that that the world is worse off for me in it. And I believe that's a tactic that the demonic use on lots of people a lot of the time. I mean, look at old George Bailey and It's a Wonderful Life, right? I mean, he gets the chance, and what a cool concept, but he gets the chance to see what the world would be like if he wasn't in it.
Yeah.
And it's such a heartwarming movie because we all want to believe that the world's better because we're in it. And we all can also relate to George Bailey wanting to just not be here anymore. And he can't figure out how he messed up so bad. And he can't figure out how his family would love him even when he's messed up so bad. But that movie is so incredibly touching because of course his family loves him. And of course they forgive him. And of course they need him around.
Yeah.
And like, I always feel like such an idiot because Eileen and I are really, I don't know if you picked up on this, but Eileen and I are really honest with each other, like brutally honest with each other. And I think that came out of our traumatic beginning but like, we will tell each other everything. And so like, you've walked with me through all of my hardest moments.
Gosh, we were talking earlier and we're like, that was like the darkest moments. But honestly, I think there was a period of time when you were suicidal, and that was by far harder for me than any of our fights. I mean, and there was like nothing I could do. Like, I just didn't know like how to, like, how could you even think that we would be better off without you? And it's so funny because like, I mean, I have spent years feeling that way, and you would tell me that I was wrong. And then when it switched and you felt like that, it was like that was so much more despair, I think, because I feel like when we were fighting, like, there's at least an opportunity to progress and I just got an eyelash in my eye, and work things out and come to a deeper understanding. But when you just like completely leave, there's no redemption, like there's no resolution. And I mean, there is, I mean, God has peace for all of us at all times, but
well, I can't judge anybody for anything because
yeah,
I can totally relate. I've been there.
Me too. Like, I totally get it.
I've been mad enough to kill. I do not judge murderers. I have been mad enough to kill people. I thankfully haven't done it, but I've been mad enough to. I know that I could. I know I'm capable of it.
I think everyone is capable. People think that they're not because they haven't ever.
I certainly don't judge people who struggle with lust. I have struggled mightily with lust. I don't judge people. Like, the beautiful thing about the gospel is it allows you to be real with yourself because you're already forgiven.
Yes.
The grace is already yours. The reward is already yours. God's love and acceptance of you is already yours. So what happens is you get to start to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
That changes everything. And when you can be honest with yourself, you can begin to live in a totally different way. And I think it's really hard for people in religious circles to be honest with themselves because
oh my gosh, you're supposed
their religion is telling them to behave and be good and get better every year. And that's just not how life works. Like, I don't know what you were referring. Were you just referring to the time right after the trip?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like just a few years ago.
I mean, there was a period of time when we were still at Beaver Creek. Because I remember like reaching out to a couple of people, and I didn't tell them what was happening, but I was just like, oh my gosh, we are really having a hard time. So it happened twice. Like, the trip was in the middle. And I think the trip was amazing, and we were busy. But
it was incredibly stressful for me. But the point of this, the thing I wanted to bring up was just that this was only a few years ago. This is not, I'm not trying, I don't want you to watch this podcast and watch this story and think, oh, all of our dark parts and all of our hard times were 20 years ago. No. The darkest time, not the saddest I've ever been at myself, but the darkest time in terms of suicidal thoughts was
3 years ago.
Was 2021.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I don't want to get too off topic. I'm sure we'll get into it another time, but this is a good time to transition into the next song on the album, which is called The Road, which essentially is me being suicidal.
Yeah.
Like, The Road is sort of me jumping in the car, leaving in anger, and then basically envisioning a car accident where I die, because that's where I was at. I was just like, I don't see how this gets better, but I don't want her to have to live with my suicide. So if I just get in a car accident, I get out and you are sad, but you don't think I killed myself.
Right.
So on that note, that cheery note, I will play for you the song called The Road.
Why stay here, this screaming? shoes are worn, hear them dragging like they don't want me to turn this way. Gas station, just pulling through. No music, just heartbeat and hard road ahead. Blue vision, an unbearable heat. I wish I was dead. You told me you love me. What did you think that meant? And I swore I'd never hurt you, but we see how that went. Look out, the light, that car,
So, did you know back then that I had already like self-harmed? Or did
Oh,
like
yeah. You mean when I wrote that song?
no, like did like I'm just trying to imagine what that was like for you, cuz like some of what you wrote there is clearly like, is it like, did you feel responsible for me?
Oh,
Self-harming.
absolutely. Oh, of course. I mean, the beginning of the song is all about me trying to process that. Like, I have caused my wife to hurt herself. Like, how do I live with that? Like, how do I have made her so sad and angry that she has literally put bruises all over her own body. Like, I mean, how do you live with yourself at that point? Like, how do you as a man look at your wife and say, I love you? Because you know that you've caused them so much pain and anguish that they've literally hurt themselves. Like, I used to say, if anybody did to you the things that you did to you, I would have destroyed them. But, like, it's such a confusing thing to watch you hurt yourself. For me to want to destroy you for hurting yourself. For me to realize I'm the cause, at least a significant contributing factor, and to realize that I am just making it worse.
Yeah.
It's like the most catch-22 of 22s. It's like I just felt so completely at a loss. I had no idea what to do. I had no idea what to do except leave. That's the only thing I could come to. Which is why that's what I'm doing in that song, is I'm running.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
absolutely running because I'm like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do here. Like, we literally, and I don't want you guys to think that we fought from our wedding till our separation in January, because we didn't. We obviously got pregnant. We had moments where it was just amazing. Like
Right, because it was all fighting.
Yeah.
What?
The sad truth is you just don't typically write songs about normal great days, right? You write songs about...
Well, a lot of people do write songs about some pretty
I
great
write
times.
some songs about great days too. They just have to be like really great days. But like...
There were some really great days.
No doubt. But I can't write about those. Those too sexual. I mean, this song to me, so in every record that you make, there's a song that turns out better than you thought, and there's a song that didn't quite turn out as good as you thought. And interestingly enough, for me, Tell Me Darlin' How didn't land as impactful as I wanted it to. I'm still proud of it. I'm still happy with how it turned out. But this song gives me goosebumps every time I listen to it. Like, I feel like there's a moment where it lulls and it says, tires are worn, hear them dragging. And it's almost like the song starts over. And I don't know that everybody will hear this or connect with it, but like while the band and I did a good job in the first half of the song, we like click into an extra gear for the second half of the song. And it's just, for me, it's goosebump inducing. Like it's better than I hoped it would be. It came out better than, but that's sort of me just talking about making records. But, yeah, I mean, why stay here? Here's the lyric. Why stay here? This screaming, it hurts my head. The bruises, the bleeding, good as dead. The pounding, the kicking, the way I hold you down, convulsing, not speaking, such an awful sound. And I told you, and you told me you love me, but you don't. And I told you I'd hold you, but baby, here I go. So short that I've known you, but long enough for the haze of young love to burn off. I hate you. I love you. Baby, which way is up? How could I do what I've done to you if this is love? You told me you love me, but you don't. And I told you I'd hold you, but baby, here I go, the road. That's the first half. And then the second part is tires are worn. I hear them dragging like they don't want me to. I remember this night. I mean, this was a real night. You're going to make me cry. This was a real night when I left the house in anger and drove. And I wrote this right after that, or very soon after. And I knew that I had evil intent in my heart. I knew that I wanted to just end it. And I felt like the car was conspiring against me. I felt like the car... This is my Volvo, my orange Volvo. I had a 1979 Volvo, and it was old and beat, and the tires were very worn. Turn this way, gas station, just pulling through. No music, just heartbeat and hard road ahead. I remember, because I always listen to music, always. I was so angry, I didn't even turn on music, and my own heartbeat was so loud in my ears, because I knew I was going to kill myself. I thought I was, and I was having an adrenaline response. No music, just heartbeat and hard road ahead. How little I know, how hard. Blurred vision, unbearable heat. I wish I was dead. You told me you loved me. What did you think that meant? And I swore I'd never hurt you, but we see how all that went. Look out. The light. That car. The sound. The roll. The life. The blood. The ground. The road. And I wanted it to be an accident. I really did. I wanted it to be an accident because I didn't want it to be on Eileen's conscious that, that I killed myself. But I was really struggling. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't see how I was making anything better. I definitely saw how I was making things worse. So but yet it seemed like the most painful thing I could do to her was leave. Like the hardest thing I could do, the hardest thing I could do was leave, because you had such a strong emotional response to me leaving.
Oh, I couldn't handle it.
Because you thought I was leaving forever.
Well, I mean, I just wanted you to want to stay. And I didn't give you any reason. And I wish that I had known how to love you.
Likewise. It was just a mess. I mean, we just didn't know. I didn't know how to love you. I did not know what to do or say
Yeah.
to make you like we would just get in these spirals and they happen so quickly. Like we could be fine all day and then something.
Well, everything was so
Everything was so
close to
raw.
the surface.
Everything was so raw. And like our wounds
Oh,
were
the
just
slightest touch, and it's
Yeah.
just like total pain.
Yeah, it was rough. It was awful. And we're both artistic, passionate people, so maybe we're blowing it out of proportion. But in our reality, this is what it was, right? Like, I mean, this is what was going on. And like I'm still going to work during the day, worried that Eileen's going to call me from work like in a state and you know, she's pregnant at this point. Not at this point. I didn't know that, but I'm
The
about
road's
to.
December 7th.
That's true. The road was December 7th. So I did write that after I knew.
I mean, and I get that too. Like, you don't even know how to be with me. And then finding out that there's going to be a kid. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you do that? I just don't understand, like, how we're here.
I know. This was 20 years ago, guys, and we are crying like babies
Oh my
because
gosh.
this was so hard. There's still a part of us that's raw from this, no doubt. It is healed a lot.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, you know, I think that there's, like, a new appreciation. Like you were saying, and I think it was the last episode where, you know, I was writing stuff and I wrote text to you.
Yeah, you wrote down the proposal word for word.
Oh, so it was like a while ago. But I think there's a new depth of sadness that you get with time, because I think sometimes in the middle of everything you're so angry because that's like that's your coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And then in hindsight, like, once you do know how to love someone and you have loved them more and you've seen more of the complete picture of who they are, you understand in a new way, like, how much you hurt them, and it hurts you more because you love them more.
So much more now. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I loved you, December? So I met you in June, so 6 months in. Like, as much as I knew you, I hated that I was hurting you. But now, 20 years in, the amount that I love you now, the amount that I know you now,
my gosh.
the fact that I hurt you in the ways that I hurt you, it's sometimes it's hard to process. And I'm not going to lie, the more recent depression and suicidal thoughts that I've had sometimes definitely stem from the early days and realizing just how much of a failure I was.
Wait, it must be in the last song. We're weeping for ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting because I think that in many ways that's true. Like, in the early going, we wept for ourselves, and now
we
weep because
for
we
each other.
know how much we hurt the other person. We can, like, see it from their perspective. But there's still that, I mean, it's still so painful because it was so horrible.
It was really bad. It was really tough. In this series of taking you through the album, we're not going to get into Eileen's childhood and where the self-loathing kind of starts. That's going to be a later session. So just know that she'll get into that.
Yeah, maybe before this even gets posted.
But I mean, our goal with all of this is just to be honest, because we know how dark it can be, and we want to give you hope that no matter what you've done, God loves you. No matter what you've done, or whatever you will do, you are already forgiven. That penalty has already been paid. God is a just God, so he does not punish twice for sin, and he took all that. He took all that punishment on the cross 2,000 years ago. There is no more punishment for anybody.
There was serious punishment, but it happened.
It happened. It was serious. The sins you're committing now are serious, but the penalty for them is already paid. And we'll get into that in other things.
The sins that are committed against you are
also
serious. And they're not just like, oh, it's okay. God forgave it and now it's okay. But no, he didn't just forgive it. He died for it.
Took the penalty.
Like he paid for it with his life. Like it's not like it was nothing. It didn't go away. It was accounted for.
Yeah. There was a debt owed.
Yeah.
And it was paid with blood.
Yeah.
And it's serious. But you're free. You're free now. And you're free the instant that you let that truth wash through your body, and it's physical. I feel it right now. Like there is healing and it's instantaneous. And Jesus said the work is to believe.
Yeah.
That's what he said. They were like, God, tell us, Jesus, tell us, what work must we do to inherit eternal life? And he said, the work is to believe. Believe. Now, at that point, what he was about to do wasn't done, so he couldn't tell them. But at this point, you can look back and you can say, the work is done.
Yeah.
That sin, it was serious. Every sin you did and every sin that was done to you was serious, but it's finished. It was taken. That penalty is already paid. That's freedom. That's the beginning of freedom. That's why the Apostle Paul said it's for freedom that we have been set free. Anyway, the gospel is the best thing ever.
Yeah. And I think like part of what I wanted early on was that I wanted you to be sorry.
Sorry enough. Yeah.
For what you had done to me.
Yeah.
Like I wanted you to go, you know what, Eileen? You're right. I should have like introduced you to people. I should have comforted you. I should have like I wanted you to be sorry. And I think later when I actually understood what Jesus did, I was like, "Oh, I don't need you to be sorry. Like you're already forgiven anyway."
Well, I think the other thing you realized around the same time was that I could never be sorry enough.
Oh, no one can ever be sorry
I would
enough.
never do it justice. Like, I could.
And we can't ever really know someone else's sorrow.
And I can't go back. Like I think ultimately in the dream scenario, I would go back and do it differently. I would go back and I would take care of you, and I wouldn't exacerbate all your insecurities, and I wouldn't do.
Yeah, and I would just not be insecure in the first place.
Right. Wouldn't that just be amazing? But instead, it's been 20 years of hard road. And that's the thing about the lyric, which I think, like you said, sometimes you get prophetic, that lyric of...
hard road ahead.
Yeah, no music, just heartbeat and hard road ahead. Blurred vision, unbearable heat. I wish I was dead. So you're not alone. Whatever it is you're going through, however horrific you think it is, however undeserving you think you are of forgiveness and grace and mercy, I am happy to break it to you. It doesn't matter. You're already forgiven. It's already done.
Yeah.
That penalty is already paid. That debt is no longer owed.
Yeah.
I mean, you're welcome. That's the best news in the whole wide world. This is the problem. I have real problems with religion because I think religion, especially Christianity, really muddies the waters in this regard. A lot of times the subtext is, yeah, but now you have to...
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. No, there is no but now. There is nothing but grace forever and ever, forever into the future. That is astounding. That is mind-blowing grace. It does not make sense. No human lives like that naturally.
Yeah.
And that is our God. That is the heart of our God. There's nothing you can do that hasn't already been paid for. Now, someone might ask, and I just heard this on a podcast, and it's a very reasonable question. So then anything I can do, God's not going to hold it against me. True. But guess what? Everything you do has consequences.
Yeah, there are physical
real
ramifications right here.
And also, as you let the truth of the gospel change your person, your behavior just changes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be what Christianity has made it to be, which is carrots and sticks. Oh, you'll get heaven if you're good, and Jesus is really sad and he's going to throw trials at you if you're bad. Bullshit.
No, he did it for his own self. Like, I think that God, when he says that he paid for our sin, He says that he did it for his own self.
Yeah.
He didn't do it for us because he loves us and
Yeah.
he wants to be with us. And the only way he can be with us is to pay for it himself.
Yeah.
And so he didn't do it because we deserved it or because we, had some right to it. He did it for himself. And therefore, we can't take it away.
Amen. This is the best.
It is the best.
It's the best, guys. And that is why we're doing this. That is why we are spending our time to tell you our dirty laundry so that you can connect with this truth. That understand that if you have been burned by churches, if you have been confused by religion, whatever kind it is.
Or just felt condemned all on your own.
Yeah.
In your own heart and in your own concept of yourself.
Yeah, God wrote way back, I think it's Jeremiah 31, but he wrote, I will deal with the sins of the land in a single day. Jeremiah, I believe it's Jeremiah, was prophesying and saying that God was going to deal with the sins of the land, the whole land, in a single day. And John the Baptist, when he first saw Jesus coming, he said, behold, the Lamb of God to take away the sins of the world. It's all done. It's all done. The only reason religious people don't communicate that clearly is if they don't know themselves or they are manipulating people to keep coming and putting money in their offering plate.
Yeah.
Those are the only options. They either don't know the truth or they're intentionally lying to keep people coming back to dole out forgiveness a little bit at a time so that those donations keep rolling into the plate. And I'm sorry if I'm a little bit jaded, but I think that people taking the gospel, which is the freest, most beautiful, most generous thing ever in the whole wide world, and then trying to monetize it, it makes me really angry. It makes my blood boil. And it's
But
okay.
they're forgiven.
'Cause God loves those people. I might not, but God loves those people. So, but I'm just trying to tell you, if you watching, if you have been burned or just confused by religious people who are telling you about what Jesus did and what he didn't do, just know that there is a deeper truth. And it's more beautiful than you could ever know.
And I think it becomes more and more beautiful the more you experience
the more you
it.
sin. The more you screw up, the more beautiful that amazing grace gets. So there's still 3 more songs that were written on December 6th or 7th. We'll just do one more and we'll just end with this one for now. And then we'll talk about December 7th and Please Stay in the next one. So
Yeah, that sounds good.
thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
This song is called Down and Out.
Broken, but not all the way. Holding on Brush your hair back from your eyes.